This is CapeTalk.
Well, you won't find my next guests on the Dine Plan app because they move around too much for you to be able to book online to go and eat at their particular spot. It is time to introduce you to this month's featured food truck. And today we are talking to the team behind Lotus Food. Kyle Miller and Chris Payne are with us in studio. This is actually, you could argue, one of Cape Town's oldest food trucks because they've been in the business for, I think, more than a decade already and have had to change and adapt as the market moved and changed in that time. They're all about specializing in Asian cuisine, lots of really fresh, crunchy, textured flavors, succulent satays, and all kinds of delicious food, all made from scratch, including their own dipping sauces. Kyle, Chris, welcome. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thanks, Pippa. Thank you.
And I believe you're going to be whipping up something in the background. I mean, that's I think that's going to be a first, to have the food actually prepared in studio. What are you going to be making?
We are going to make one of our prawn salads for you.
Okay. Oh, sounds divine.
Pretty much one of our most popular dishes that we do at our weddings and private events and that kind of thing.
Okay.
So yeah, it's got some fresh citrus in it, some mint, coriander, prawns, a little nam drim dressing. I hope you like chili.
I do.
There's a little bit of it in there. And then some Japanese mayo, and some peanuts and all sorts of things.
Okay,
so,
well, you had me at the Japanese mayo because I can eat that by the tablespoonful. Okay, so while you're throwing that all together, let's talk a little bit about the background to this business. I mean, Kyle, how am I right in saying a decade or possibly more?
That's correct.
How did it all start?
Well, it all started. Chris and I have actually been friends since we were at school together.
Yeah.
So we've been friends for probably about 2 decades now.
Okay.
I've been in the restaurant industry for about 15 years. And Chris was also training to be a chef. He went over to Australia, and we always kind of kept in touch. Chris was working as a chef in Australia. And one day out of the blue, he just messaged me and said, hey, bud, what you up to? Thinking of coming back. How's the restaurant industry at the moment?
Yeah. What's
happening in the scene? And we got kind of chatting, and we food trucks were just starting out in the States and becoming big. And we kind of talked about it a little bit and said this is a great idea to bring to Cape Town. I think at the time Cape Town had only one truck.
Yeah, just a couple of them.
And he was back in 2 months, and the rest is history, I suppose.
This is lovely to hear a story of someone coming back to South Africa from Australia.
Yeah, you don't hear it a lot.
You don't. So, I mean, if I may ask, what was it? Were you missing home, or did you just reckon there were going to be more opportunities for you here?
Well, definitely the opportunities were sort of more abundant here at the time, and my now wife and I were working in a hotel over there. Yeah. And we'd gone over with the idea of coming home one day. It wasn't sort of to stay there, and we'd worked really hard for 3 years, and we thought well, let's do a little bit of traveling on the way home. So we went through Southeast Asia on the way home for 2 months.
Okay.
And then in sort of coming back home, that tied in with myself and Kyle's conversations about the food truck, and that's sort of how it got going. But it was all about coming back to South Africa with the right mindset, and wanting to put something really positive down here and give it a good crack in this country again. So that's what brought us home.
So he comes back telling you of all the delicious dishes he's eaten through Southeast Asia. Kyle, I mean, was Cape Town ready for that kind of flavor profile at that time? It is now, but back then?
Definitely not. I think we were a little bit before our time. But I've also had a long passion with Asian cuisine. Okay. I've travelled Thailand several times already. My folks have actually moved out there recently. So there's a lot of passion in that, and I think it's a very healthy cuisine. It's got a lot of fresh flavours. It's easily adaptable to create vegan dishes. Yeah. So I think that's the way we wanted to go. We didn't want to do the standard burger and buri rolls and all that standard cuisine. Yeah. So it was great.
I'm watching the salad come together to the right, and it's looking amazing.
As I said, there's a little bit of chili, quite a bit of chili, and quite a bit of garlic in here. So
that's okay. Yeah, I had garlic last night, so it'll top up, and the chili will help the sinuses. No problem. Before I dive in for a taste, I mean, let's talk a little bit about where to from there. So you started out, Kyle, as a traditional food truck. You moved between the markets. You could be found in probably every one of the major markets at some point. But you've adapted quite a lot since then, haven't you?
That's right. Yeah. So we started off doing all the markets. We had quite a few small private event requests in the beginning. We did all the festivals, so all the big festivals, Rocking the Daisies, Ultra Fests, every festival that you can imagine we did. It was a lot of hard work, long hours, long weekends. As kind of we learned the business model a little bit, we realized that there's a lot more event space happening at the moment, and we hadn't quite tapped into the kind of the corporate events. We started getting very popular with weddings. And then from doing the markets, we got a lot of customers saying, hey, would you come and do my 50th birthday party?
Right.
Or that kind of thing. So that kind of how it grew. As more and more food trucks came on the circuits, a lot of the markets, there was a lot more competition, 10, 12 trucks at a single market. So we kind of adapted a little bit and said, listen, let's focus solely on this private events, wedding and corporate market and try push for that. So that's what we're currently doing at the moment.
Okay. So talk to me about the menu and some of the favorites. So I'm about to taste your prawn salad, which looks just fresh and crunchy and everything beautiful. But what would you say are your most popular dishes?
So we've got a whole range of dishes. I mean, we do everything from, arrival canapes, starters, main courses, and even got a few desserts. From our wedding kind of aspect, the couples generally have a few canapes while the photos are being taken. So some of our most popular ones there are our char grilled satays. We do a beef, pork and chicken satay, either with teriyaki or peanut dipping sauce. We've got beautiful wontons that we do on arrival. And then we have a whole range of different salads. We can do miniature versions of the prawn salad like you're seeing now, as well as our beef salads. We do miso chicken wings, crispy squid as well. So those are our most popular items. And then for main courses, we do a whole bunch. We kind of do our Thai red curry is probably the most popular. We can do that with chicken or prawns. We have a slow braised beef brisket dish that goes really well with pickled cucumbers and coriander. And then lots of other dishes they can choose from.
Now you plating this beautifully in, is that a bamboo dish of some sort I'm looking at? Or,
that's a bamboo veneer boat. So it's obviously right from the get-go, we went 100% biodegradable on everything that we serve, all our packaging. And we prefer to stick to, this sort of packaging. We use a lot of obviously biodegradable bamboo. We use quite a lot of sugarcane husk packaging as well. And then the PLA cornstarch packaging, which I've actually got some here. These are the
side,
forks.
Yeah.
So these will all be gone in a few months from now, no matter what you do with them, sort of thing. If you compost them, they'll obviously biodegrade a lot quicker. But right from the start in 2013. We went with the biodegradable stuff.
So that version of a fork, even if it does end up in landfill, is going to just
it's gonna
rot away quite quickly. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. And I mean, you obviously were ahead of your time on that. Nowadays, all of a sudden, it's sort of a selling gimmick to say, hey, we've got biodegradable. But what was it? I mean, what was it that made you decide to do that up front?
I think it was, obviously a responsibility element to it, that we were going to be putting a lot of packaging into the system and we wanted it to be biodegradable. But then conveniently, it also sort of fits the style of what we're doing. If you're in Bangkok and you order a nice salad on the side of the road, you're going to get it on a banana leaf. You're going to get it on on something quite similar. So it sort of ticked the boxes. But there was definitely a responsibility element to it that we felt was important.
And it just looks so beautiful as well. And that sort of being able to hold it in your hand is ideal for weddings and functions, rather than... So if you were to cater a wedding, is it all going to be food like that can be passed around rather than a seated plated affair?
100%. Yeah. I mean, that's how we sell ourselves. It's not, although we do have some clients that want us to sort of bend our model slightly into a more of a sit-down formal affair, but we do sell it as you see it here. We're much more informal. We're much more of the roaming style weddings or birthdays or things where people are hanging around, having a conversation around the food and good wine and that's
I love that style. Okay, so we're going to get a photo of it before I demolish it and make it look less beautiful that we can tweet for our listeners. But I mean, that two things happen at those kind of events in my experience. Either you don't recognize how much you've actually eaten and you just keep on trying everything and everything keeps coming and you love it. You end up being so busy talking that you miss the food. So hopefully you've got good waiters to start to make sure you don't fall into that category. All right, so I'm going to dive in and have a taste.
Yeah.
Please do.
If you'll pass that
Ship
across.
that over. There you go.
Thank you so much. Okay, so it presents as this beautiful, fresh, brightly coloured salad with some little glass noodles at the bottom, these plump pink prawns on top with a scattering of black and white sesame seeds, beautiful pops of green coriander, and then the orange citrus and... Well, those peanuts I'm seeing in here.
Toasted peanuts and sesame seeds.
Okay, I'm going in for a bite and it's going to go crunch. Oh, it's so good.
thank goodness.
Okay, tell me more about this dressing. It is delicious. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's a sort of a very traditional Thai dressing called Nam Jim, and it's made with fresh lime juice, garlic, coriander, fresh coriander, obviously.
Fish sauce.
It's supposed to be made with fish sauce traditionally. I left out the fish sauce because we heard a rumor that you were allergic to king clip.
Yeah.
So I thought, let's rather not cause a scene on radio here. We didn't want that to happen.
Okay.
Yeah, so I just used normal salt to season that, and then obviously lots of fresh chili.
So for the record, I'm fine with fish sauce, but thank you. That's really incredibly thoughtful of you to think about the ramifications of the host swelling up mid-show would not have been pretty. I get your point. In terms of sourcing ingredients, how do you guys manage it? Is everything sourced locally? Do you have to import certain ingredients?
We've got a company that we import our Asian ingredients from. Otherwise, all the veg and everything is sourced locally. We're lucky enough to own 3 other restaurants. So we kind of combine all our sourcing through the restaurants and our supplies from the restaurants.
And are those traditional standing restaurants?
Those are traditional restaurants, yeah. We were actually, after Lotus Food Truck was kind of the catalyst to go into coffee shops and restaurants as well. So it allowed us to expand a little bit into another industry.
Megan just saying, listening to these guys talking about all this food is making me so hungry. The sort of those slow braised ribs. Thanks for that, Megan, and you can go and find them for the next event you're planning, perhaps, and solve the problem. The one thing I haven't asked you about very quickly, COVID must have been an absolute nightmare for a business specialising in events catering. How did you survive it?
Sure, that's $1 million question.
With a big sigh.
We survived. We survived it. Like I mentioned, we've got 3 other restaurants, and we actually hung on to all our restaurants. We hung on to all our staff. A lot of self-sacrifice to keep everyone going, and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to keep the businesses running. But Chris and I said we weren't going to talk about COVID too much because we've put it behind us and we're moving forward. You know?
And I mean, things have bounced back, and it sounds like your events business certainly is busier than ever.
Yeah, I think just to sort of elaborate slightly on, not to go too into COVID, but that's the beauty of a food truck, is that it's a low overhead food business. You've got very low. We have no permanent staff on the food truck. They all work in our restaurants, and then obviously the rentals are tiny because the food truck only takes up 10 square meters. So it's a very smart business from that point of view.
Yeah.
And that is what helped that business get through those difficult years. When we weren't allowed to move around and
Well, thank heavens you did survive to serve me this plate of food. It has been the most delicious, crunchy, vibrantly flavoured lunch. And thank you so much for making it for me and for joining us. Final question before we hand over to news. If listeners are listening to this going, well, that's my wedding sorted, how do they connect with you to book you for their next event?
So they can obviously find us on all the socials, Facebook /Lotus Food Truck. Otherwise, all inquiries, direct email to us at info at lotusfoodtruck.co.za.
You've been listening to Kyle and Chris from Lotus Food Truck. Thank you for the most delicious food, and lovely to have you guys in studio.
Thank you.
All the best for the growth of all of the businesses.
Thanks so much, Pippa.